Hey there, troop leaders. I'm Layla Ehlers, and I'm a troop support manager for Girl Scouts of Western Ohio. And I'm going to review with you just a few of our resources to help guide you throughout your Girl Scout year. We have a lot of resources, but we think that these 4 resources are going to really help point you in the right direction. We might throw in some bonus ones as well. So we're going to be looking primarily at the volunteer essentials, the program events guide, safety activity checkpoints, and then the GIRL resource centers. So we are going to be looking at our website, so you can follow along at gswo.org. I'm going to share that with you. Maybe, there we go. All right. So we're going to go to gswo.org. As I just mentioned, we're going to hit up the volunteer tab so we can first find volunteer essentials. So under volunteer essentials, you're going to find this book. You may already have this printed, and if you don't but want a printed version, you can contact your community development manager. This does come out annually with various updates as needed, but if you want to flip through this virtual edition, you can. You can also download the PDF version if you want to keep it handy that way. If you're going to flip through it, definitely go through the full screen. Otherwise, you won't be able to read it. And you can adjust how big or small the font is. Now, you can also just reference this information here. This is all of the general topics that are found in our book, just a little different view. So welcome to Girl Scouts of Ohio. This is a quick overview of our council, kind of who we are, where we are, etc. And then we have the foundational Girl Scout program. So that's a little bit of what Girl Scout does and how we do it. Things like our program processes and our national portfolio, our program pillars, etc. And then engaging girls and engaging families. That really is what it says. It's just connecting with girls and their families. Then troop management, so that's tips and tools for you as a troop leader. Building that troop committee, more about your role specifically, and just some general tips and tools to support you as a troop leader. We also have product programs, so that one's pretty self-explanatory. That's some basic ins and outs of the fall product and cookie programs. As you know, you can find more information about those specifically under the Cookies Plus tab, but this is also a great resource to get some quick information. Troop finances, so that is troop money earning, managing your troop funds, opening up troop checking accounts, things like setting dues, anything money or finance related is all under there. And then lastly, but certainly most important probably, is safety. So we do have some safety elements sprinkled in throughout volunteer essentials, but this is really the key focuses here. So things like knowing our policy for like computer and online safety, things like reporting abuse, which we hope we don't have to do, but you can find out more information about doing so. Transporting girls safely, know what you need to do for to prepare for troop trips and travel, all kinds of stuff, your volunteer to girl ratios. So that really is a quick look at what's in volunteer essentials. And while I'm here, I said I might throw in a bonus one, so I'm going to do so. The Troop Leader Blueprint, also found under this volunteer tab, is a new resource for us. We're continuing to build it up, but this is going to be a great place to go. You can select each grade level and it'll give you some different resources, even some programming ideas and kickstarts. So really a great place for any troop leader. Really awesome for new troop leaders. And then we also want to share with you, we're going to move on to the events tab. And just a note, I did mention that this Troop Leader Blueprint is fairly new, so we're going to continue to grow that. So keep an eye on that. So we're going to look at that program events guide. So I go to the events tab, I hover and scroll down to find program events guide. This is essentially a catalog of council-sponsored and our community partner-sponsored events. This has been printed in the past. It is currently only available online. This looks a lot like that Volunteer Essentials book, so you can download it here, or you can flip through it to make it a little easier to see. You definitely want to go full screen. Other than just the listings of the program events, there's also information about our council, where our camp properties are, where our service centers are. It gives you a little key on navigating through this guide and some additional events and dates. And then this is an awesome resource for troop leaders. This really gives you an idea of creating kind of a well-rounded Girl Scout experience throughout the year. So we love, love, love this and hope that you are also referencing and loving that as much as we are. And then a little bit of information on how to attend an event, how to register, and then a little bit about our refund policy, our confirmations, anything related to our program events. I also do want to mention there's some property reservation information. So I mentioned it tells you where our camp properties are, but it also tells you what's available there and shows you cost and availability information. And then I do want to point out the difference between a council sponsored and a program partner sponsored. So for example, this art badge workshop is hosted by A Brush of Hope. So every listing has the description, the general topic, the date, the cost, but it also shows you registration information. This is really important because it'll tell you who you need to contact. So if it is one of our council-sponsored events, you can go through our events calendar to register. But if it is not, if it doesn't have, one of our program people, so it usually says DAY for Dayton, and it'll say Toledo, LIM or CIN, and those reference a staff member from one of our Girl Scout offices. So it says anything other than those, or says something like a specific website, it is likely a community partner event, and you should definitely follow those registration information and instructions. All right, I'm gonna make that small again. And we do keep this updated. It is a digital version, so we try to keep it updated as best as possible. Do note that, things do change, and we try to let you know when that happens. Just a quick note under events. So when you're looking at our event calendar, you're really only seeing council-sponsored events because our event calendar links to events where GSWO manages that registration. So that example I showed just a minute ago with A Brush of Hope, that event would not be listed in our event calendar because we do not collect registration information for that. So just a note on why it's so important to reference our program events guide and not just our calendar. All right, so going back to our volunteer tab, we're going to look at safety activity checkpoints. Now this you'll need to find under online support for volunteers. There is some really basic information under that safety tab in Volunteer Essentials, but it is actually a pretty hefty document. So here we are under safety activity checkpoints. We don't expect you to have it printed, but it is 182 pages. So It is really helpful to at least have downloaded or saved in your folder, or you can save this or bookmark it, but very important to reference and know that we update as there are updated versions required. The table of contents is really going to be your best friend as you get started in this document. But as you notice, it is really any sort of activity that's kind of out of the ordinary of your regular meeting activities. So even outings like going to an amusement park, any sort of animal interaction, you know that Girl Scouts love animals, so that's important to keep in mind. Things that are not a specific council-sponsored event, you'll want to check this out. So even though we can take you hiking, you're going to want to reference if you're going hiking not with one of the council staff members or as a council sponsored event, you would still want to check hiking to see if there are any additional requirements such as additional paperwork or insurance needs, things like that. So again, very helpful to keep in mind. It does feel like a lot to look through, but that table of contents is super helpful. Now, I also just want to mention, it reminds you to bring your first aid kit. So you as a troop leader are responsible for carrying that first aid kit with you at all times. It talks about things like CPR, first aid, and again, anytime you're with girls, somebody there needs to be CPR first aid trained. Then there's really like a chart of kind of what's available and the overall needs and requirements. And I'm going to try to scroll down a little bit to the other point of it. All right, so, or the other view of it is the details of each activity. So the first is kind of that quick chart, quick glance. And then this one is really more detailed. So we looked at animal interaction and we know that's probably going to be a common one. So what is permitted? So it tells you the age this is permitted for. And then does it need council approval or not? This one says, no, you're good. And what does that activity actually include? And then some more information on kind of what to keep in mind, how to stay safe. And then there's usually some more information about, we're going to scroll through and I apologize. I think this one will work. Okay. So there's backpacking. Again, that's one that we do with staff, but if you are not at a staff event, make sure that you check this out, that you're following the correct regulations. What I wanted to point out, there is a section in a lot of these that says include girls with disabilities. And this is really just helpful information on how to make it a more inclusive experience as needed. All right, so our fourth resource, well, technically fifth, because I showed the Troop Leader Blueprint, the GIRL Resource Centers. So those are, oops, go back here. That's another good resource for you to go to is our camp website, all things camp related. So we'll throw that one in as a bonus. All right, so under the volunteers tab, we're gonna look at the GIRL or Girl Resource Centers. And these are located at every Girl Scout center. So where your shops are, you'll find the GIRL Resource Center. This really is like a library of resources available to troop leaders to check out. They are free, but there are some stipulations with that. Just make sure that we get it back, just like a regular, like a library book. If you don't return it, then you pay for it. So how do you check out an item? This gives you a quick guide on how to do so. It does have to be done online. You can also contact our customer care team to help you walk through the process, but it's pretty simple. This is the form. It'll show, here's a list of kind of what's available. So everything from Kits. So what is in a kit? These are tools, resources, guidebooks, material, anything to provide a learning experience. Now there are limited numbers, so if you have a large troop and you're doing knot tying and you have more girls than knots or rope available in the knot tying kit, just keep in mind that that might be the case. And then the national portfolio books. So anything badge and journey related really here, specifically our classic journeys, our legacy journeys. And then there are flags available too for flag ceremonies. The checkout form, so this is pretty simple. So we just want to know where you are. And it's a simple jot form, so go ahead and just fill it out. And again, if you need help filling this out, you can call our customer care team to help you out. We just want to know who you are, where you are, and how we can contact you, and then a little bit about what you're needing and why that is. It's typically first come, first serve, so do know that we have multiples of most of these things, but they may not be available. And that's really provide as many details as possible, essentially, and then it'll tell you when you want it and when you need to have it back. And then I mentioned before, if you don't return it, then you are responsible for it. So the GIRL resource centers are an awesome resource for you to check out. Again, just accessibility to free content and resources. And then that is our official look at some resources, but I do want to mention when you're in your MyGS, be sure to jump into GS Learn for some online learning opportunities for volunteers and troop leaders. And then there's also the volunteer toolkit. It's a great resource for volunteers and troop leaders available to or through MyGS. So thank you very much and happy exploring. And if you have any questions about these resources or any others, go ahead and give our customer care team a call or shoot them an email. Thanks so much.